hi. Okay, I guess I'm on the 8th game this evening. My count is 108, and my players collectively are in the negative at 23. I don't know, I guess I have to Google what loan sharks charge these days. So, I hope everybody can hear okay, because, well, I'm having problems with my YouTube audio, so I don't know if the audio is coming in okay or not. Oh, I did want to go over a couple of things. See, this is the advantage of, as I say, of writing, because you go back, you edit. And these are some things, I forget exactly which, where they came in. Okay, Tatum O'Neal's name had come up, and she'd had her children taken away from her in custody to an obviously abusive man because she had drug problems. However, these children are being put with a father who, I mean, really, Tatum, I don't know if I already went into that or not. I think I did. The youngest child at Tree Haven had been 5 years old. Tatum, when she went to Tree Haven, was in 4th grade. I mean, she comes from a highly dysfunctional family. So I had a little compassion for Tatum. But my point being is, oh, she's got a drug problem, so we'll just put him back with the family. Sometimes it's the grandparents or family members, but you're like, wait a second, that's one of the reasons why this person has the drug problem or the addiction problem. So it's a vicious circle. And also, I mean, the things that I've seen about Tatum, there's not a whole lot. I mean, she's not too much in the limelight, but a little compassion for this girl because, yeah, she was born with a silver spoon. And I mean, I loved her. I'll always love her in Paper Moon. And that's where you see what's really sad, because I don't know if she was 4 or 5, around there, when she did that movie, and it's obvious that the girl has talent as an actress and a dysfunctional life again. I mean, we see it again and again and again. You saw it with Michael Jackson, Whitney Houston. I mean, I thought when those 2 people had died of, and that's pharmaceuticals, there would be a discussion, but of course not. There's too much. Hopefully the Britney Spears will also help launch that. That also brings me to Paris Hilton and the totally dysfunctional upbringing that this woman went through. When I went through her profile, I was like, my Lord. She lived, was it the Waldorf? I forget, one of the I mean, what a lot of people might think is a fantasy lifestyle of growing up in the suite of the Waldorf or luxury hotel in New York City or elsewhere. But I mean, her parents, control freaks. Ah, we should get together and put notes. I think her parents might even win mine. I don't know. We could sit together and play a game of cards and compare and go, okay, you're a win here, you're oh, my Lord. No wonder this poor girl, quite frankly, went really, 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 really wild. And, you know, everybody thinks that money buys everything and happiness, and ask a lot of who have been out there. She just, I mean, I had this experience, but not to that extent. But my mom was a macrobiotic health nut when I was growing up in Tucson. I mean, it was capital punishment if there was a candy wrapper found in your pocket anywhere. So, yeah, that was the extreme. And when I went to boarding school in England, they had, place you would buy candy bar, snacks, and they had candy bars and ice cream, and I wouldn't buy just one. I'd buy like 5. And I mean, I was scared. I never had a weight problem, and all of a sudden, oh, I don't know how much I dread to think how much weight I put on that year, because I didn't even think about it. I was like, oh my God, the first time I can have, candy without any restriction. And I went wild. I mean, after that, I really, I really don't like sugar, and I prefer salt, but it shows you, when you restrict kids so much, when they can get out, they go crazy. Same thing happened to me when I got to college, my first, particularly the first semester. Also, the classes were boring as shit. I was like, are you kidding? I think I went out almost every evening. I think between all of my different friends, like weekend start, because Sigma Nu had, cocktail party, whatever they called it, on Tuesday night. So I think that's what started our, and that's one of the reasons why I'm glad, and I didn't want my children growing up in the States, because this whole attitude towards alcohol, and you can't have it's this restriction, but particularly alcohol. That's why we have so many binge drinkers in this country. Unfortunately, it's going elsewhere. But so again, Paris Hilton, everybody thinks that she's had, everything. That little girl. And I saw on her profile, because she was sent to a reform school because she didn't behave enough. She didn't sit there like a zombie when they wanted her to. I think this was Utah, I'm not positive, but around that area. I talked about this when I talked about Tree Haven, not the same, because schools like Tree Haven, where Patty Davis Reagan went, it's not the same thing where Paris Hilton ended up. I mean, these are institutions that really need a colonoscopy. And, you know, Paris Hilton, I saw before the COVID, she was a demonstration in the town that we need a colonoscopy here. So let's see. I mean, you know, you can, because I go because Cornelia Guest was the original Deb of the decade. I mean, Paris Hilton was in there. Kim Kardashian is another. J Lo. I mean, it's propagating all over the place. But Paris Hilton is the only one that I've seen who's looking at any of this or saying, wait, this is fucked up. Excuse my French, but so oh, and then I guess I talked about Ivanka. Coming, well, in the last one I talked about Ivanka Trump, but I had a funny story because she came into Kalari, the restaurant that I was working at until the shutdown on K Street. I forget, maybe 2 years. I mean, it was a while after her father had gotten in, but I mean, we get a lot of these people. So there was somebody who called for a reservation in the name of Kushner, and I thought somebody was playing a joke on me. I really did. So I told the staff, I said, okay, apparently we got Kushner coming in. You know, I don't know who it's with, but I don't know if it's even real, because we also get a lot of fake, like particularly from disgruntled employees who have left. And even, you know, they'll reserve like a table of 6. And then, so, you know, then we have to put the tables together. I have to keep that. So anyway, we have that issue sometimes. So I was also, wait a second, is this somebody playing a joke? And so a couple comes in. So I mean, I'm not sure, but I'm keeping 76 and I'm keeping that corner free and nothing around there. So if they come in, then it's, I mean, this is the evening. We're never busy in the evening. So I'm looking down at the pad, and you know, somebody comes in and says table for 2. So I look up and there's this gentleman. And so I go, okay. And I show them to 44. It's not a good table. It's the closest I could get to the window without getting them near the table I had been keeping for Jared Kushner. So, you know, I'm taking them to the table. And I hear this, well, don't you have the gentleman, don't you have a better table than that? And I turn around and right in front of me is Ivanka Trump. I didn't recognize Jared Kushner, but I recognized the Ivanka Trump. And I'm like, oh Lord. I said, did you have a reservation? I didn't know what to say. Yes, like yes, and then I'm like, excuse me, we have your table over here. I told the bodyguards afterwards who had come in, I said, I promise you, I even thought it was a joke that somebody was playing. And I mean, they did come in after that. And I do have to say, you know, everybody in the restaurant, you know, whatever you have to say about Ivanka or Jared, this is totally separate, but they were not obnoxious assholes. So I mean, you have to say things that you have to be honest about people. Really, they were very, very well. All of the waiters said that they were very nice, and um, it didn't. Which brings me to oh, because we one of the bus boys one time was overheard by one of the big wigs saying what a royal prick the guy was. And he told the manager, he said, I heard that. But believe me, if anybody knew, I'm going to spill the beans here. Some of the conversations that go on between the people who work in these restaurants about particularly the overinflated ego people who come into them, and Washington. I mean, this is I don't know, we have more rats on the street or in our institutions, but anyway, so we had another occasion where there was a reservation for the Trump administration. So we didn't know. So rumors are flying that this is going to be Trump who's coming in. So I'm like, I don't know, whatever. Excuse me. They've got the PDR, the private dining room, reserved. So it's set up, they're going to come in. And so when they come in, we find out it's Mick Mulvaney. And I mean, we see him walking in, so okay, so we know. So he marches in. I promise you, the emperor that's wearing no clothes, there's an illustration there. The guy is marching with his nose up in the air. Oh, it was too funny. So he's marching in, he's really short, just like the emperor, who's wearing no clothes with his nose up in the air. And he's got 5 people behind him, behind the emperor, marching past him. And then, good evening, good evening, good evening. The only 2 people who responded in that little procession were the last 2. With bodyguards. I mean, I just was like, God, this country is out of control with its royalty. Oh. So anyway, those were 2 funny stories. Oh, and then I guess in the last one of my Alice in Wonderland cards was Silence in the Courts. Now, I don't know if anybody's ever seen the movie On a Clear Day You Can See Forever with Barbara Streisand. It's in the 60s. And Jack Nicholson is in there. He plays her stepbrother. But it's a great movie. It's one of my favorite movies. And, she's a co-ed, and it's this hypnotist professor of psychology. She wants to stop smoking. Anyway, she gets hypnotized. And he finds out that she has past lives. And so it goes through all of the past lives. But one of the past lives is this Melinda Tentries. and she's up on trial because she gave information to her, she's considered a witch, or, but this is 1800s England. And she gets up on the stand and she goes, I am appalled. Absolutely appalled at these proceedings. I've been going through my Melinda Tentries moment for the past 15 years nonstop. I'll have to see if I can find a clip and play it. But the silence in the court one just reminded me that. I mean, it's one of my favorite scenes of the movie. And I have to say, every time when I first started out and I got into the courts in Spain, I started with my Melinda Tentries moments. And I'm still appalled. Oh. So, okay, let's see what we've got this evening. I hope everybody's doing well. I really haven't seen what's going on with the hurricanes up north. I mean, I know I saw Louisiana. Biden was there. Let's do that. Examining the problems. I mean, it's like it gets to the point of what are you coming just to see how miserable we are? I mean, how many times it just, Louisiana, because I mean, I'm from there and I'm not from kind of all over, but I was born in New Orleans. My mom's from she was born and raised in Alexandria. I have cousins in Baton Rouge, New Orleans. We have connections because my parents were in college there. And then my parents lived in Covington and Hammond. There's a whole story that goes with that. That's another convoluted story. However, so I know almost as much about Louisiana as I do about Washington, Arizona. Well, less about Arizona, but a lot. Spain, France, England, and Colombia. I mean, those are my areas of expertise. I think that's kind of not a small town girl bimbo who doesn't know anything about anything. Oh, gosh. Okay, so let's start. I started putting together a spreadsheet, a table that covers the different people that I covered. I know I'm unusual and out in left field, but ask anybody who's ever known me in my life, and they'll say, "Oh Lord, yeah, she's always out in left field." One of my favorite was at Cobham. It was it was a religions class, but for me it wasn't religion. I was like, this is not a religion class, this is a philosophy class, because anytime, the few times that I had gone to a religion class, I was like, or church. I was like, gonna sit there and tell me. I mean, just these sermons that had no logical say. I mean, it was just yes. And so anyway, for me, it was more a philosophy class. And then at the end, I got, like this, in England, it's a different grading system, but I got this like stellar, out off the charts grade. And the teacher said it, and everybody, she told the class, and everybody just turned around, looked at me, and looked at the teacher, and said, "Are you kidding? She spits on every single, religious institution, because not the religion, that the religious institutions that exist in this world." And the teacher, she said, "Yes, we don't always agree with Quenby, but we have to admit she argues her case and presents her evidence that nobody can deny." So, oh, and my mother would always tell me, you would argue with God, and I would just say if he was wrong, I would. So it doesn't bother me if I come out of left field. I mean, that's my MO maybe. But when I take a stand, I've done my homework. Now I'm always, always, always willing to reevaluate something that I've looked at. However, I want those, my interlocutors, to be informed a little bit, at least, on what we're talking about. And if they're not, they're more than welcome. All the information is on the internet. They can read it, and then we can speak in a logical, calm fashion. I'm too tired of all of these prima donna. It just screaming idiots. It's getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And this is a kettle waiting to explode. So anyway, okay, let's go. Oh my goodness. Okay, so we've got the Black Lives Matter movement. I'll just leave it at that right now, and we'll get into that. So that's the first packet. Second card for the first packet is National Organization of Women, Feminist Majority Foundation. Okay, so for the second player, oh my Lord. Okay, we've got DC law firms. I think this was pulled in like the first one, but I never. I mean, I started with 8. I started at the. I mean, I'm still experimenting. So now we have the DC law firms. Not good. Ooh. So this is again player number 2. I'm doing this also because I'm putting my players, it helps. So player number 2, second card is IMF ICD under Charmaine Curry. And I actually cleaned up some of the cards. I pulled some of the stuff that I had already covered. Okay, and for player number 3, the first card, Center for Missing and Exploited Children, which is also the International Center for missing and exploited children. Second card for pile 3, James Earl Carter, Jimmy Carter. Okay, so let's see. Well, I'll give him just one for now, and then we'll look. Otherwise, I'll be here counting some of these forever. Okay, so yeah, let's do this first. Okay, Black Lives Matter. Now, I went down to when Black Lives Matter started, and they were down. So this is after COVID started. I mean, I always try and remember my dates, but this was when one of the first, or at least it was the Black Lives Matter at Lafayette Park, that area, where they had where Trump had come across, and now they kind of, you know, put a permanent installation with posters and you know, they're there squatting. So when when it started, I went down there. I actually went down there twice, trying to find, you know, leaders and go, okay, you know, I've been working on family courts, but these are the same issues. Can we sit down and talk? You know, I've been trying to build coalitions with these people. Nowhere to be found. Everybody's on their own agenda, their own, you know, it's all over the map. So I go down there, you know, the first time, the second time I had, if you look at my presentations right after the shutdown, so that was like about April 2020, and I covered some of the books that I had been looking at: Narcissism Epidemic, Dark Money, The Rise of the Fourth Reich. There's a couple of them in there. I had built these, so you can see in there that I had built these trolleys, if you will, and I mean, you can put them together there with PVC tubes. You can put them together. I have some logistical problems, but anyway, I was kind of like, when I need a break, I do these like manual arts, or, you know. So anyway, that I took it for a test run down there, because I had a little trolley that I could take it down there and haul it down there. Had some technical difficulties, but I think it was still a pretty good idea, because you can hang up all of these different demonstration banners. So take it down there, you know, I'm down there. No, so this is twice. Everybody is there to take selfies. It's a social event. I mean, you know, they're not going anywhere. They're not doing anything. So, you know, it's the same stuff with family courts. So, you know, that's why breaking it up and all of that, it just, it's like going into a, you know, a cocktail party or something and saying these people, all they're interested in is party hardy, party hardy, party hardy. And I mean, who started that? That started in the 80s. And as I keep on saying, yes, it's not, you can't put this all on Foxcroft and the Foxcroft girls. It was the whole yuppies and preppies, but I saw the Japs as well at GW when I got there, and I found out that Jap didn't stand for Japanese, but instead Jewish American prince or princess. I was like, it's no different. They have a little bit different food, a little bit different customs, but it's no different. So, I don't know if this will come up elsewhere. Maybe I'll mention it now. Okay, so with Foxcroft, this is the whole thing with Miss Charlotte was networking. Well, yeah, networking, not to social climb, but to better your community, and that's not happening. And I mean, I always say, I thank very much Foxcroft for giving me a wonderful education and a sanity away from my mother. But yeah, it's a conflict of interest, but I can't let that conflict, deter me from saying what I have to say, and those are in the letters that I wrote to the head of school and the trustee. And in August 2020, it was an email from Foxcroft to everybody about this courageous conversation that they do. I said, okay. So I said, well, I'd be happy to speak. Yeah, they're only really interested in success stories. So of course, that they weren't interested, which, is their prerogative. However, since I am, politically oriented, I am going after everybody under RICO, Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, Patriot Act, crimes against humanity, genocide. I mean, you tell me, but it kind of puts it in another ball game. And this is, again, this case is kind of, again, where we're seeing Black supremacy coming in. So there were actually, well, there are a number of people on the board of trustees. I won't go into them all, but there's two, I think maybe only one is on the board of trustees, but so there are two women, Tanya Butler Truesdale and Andrea Reed. I need to put, but one of them, she's an ombudsman in housing, DC housing, ombudsman. So this is yet another ombudsman I have with this whole thing. She's within the Foxcroft network. And I'm pretty sure because there's Andrea Reed as well, but she's as well within, I think she's academia. I forget if it's Yale or Harvard. Again, I didn't write the schools, But the story that I wanted to tell with this, which is in the letter that I did for the head of school for Foxcroft, was this was the first time that I saw, if you will, like Black bullying. So, and it's strange because, okay, so I'll tell that for a story. So when I was at Foxcroft, there's another girl here that's Janine Prim. And I would say her father was a brain surgeon, as I understand, in New York. So obviously not from a, not scholarship. I think she was the only Black girl who was not on scholarship or from, how shall I say, middle class families, that this was a step up, if you will. So, and like all of her friends, she was in my class, but I came sophomore year, and so kind of the cliques had already established, and she was also with the clique with the popular girls, but she was also with the white girls. I mean, that's kind of most of it what it was, but she was with that popular, group. And someone told me that she had been cornered by the other Black girls at the school, which weren't all, I mean, it was a small, I mean, we were 200 student body. So, and there were maybe, I don't know, 5 or, had been cornered and, bullied and said, you have to stop hanging out with the white girls and hang out with us. I mean, she was very upset. But what's strange is in one of the meeting, the reunions, she was saying how it was the inverse, that the white girls had been bullying her, and it had been traumatic for her, and to this day is still a trauma for her. So I was just like, whoa, this is a complete flip of what I remember. And I mean, I have a pretty good memory about stuff, particularly something like that, because I found it horrible. And it just was all, very strange. And then I forget all of the details, but yeah, it was the reunion in fall, I forget which month of 2020 of Foxcroft, that it was everybody. Because there was one in April of just the 81 class, but this was the whole thing. And then there was breakdowns, and you had groups, and the normal thing of a huge meeting. And I mean, I was really shocked, because I really forget exactly what I had said. I corrected somebody on something in one of the conversations. I really forget what I had said, because it was just correcting them and, expressing my opinion. And then we had this breakout, and I was sent to the class of 81 with the people who were there. Janine was there, and Vicki Threlfall was there, and she's on the board of trustees. And I mean, they bullied me. Like, why did you say that? Why did you dare say that? As I say, it was, and I don't have a video of it. I don't really remember the the comment or what I had said, but I mean, well, I was shocked. Yes, I was shocked, but not shocked. But I was like, what is going on with you guys? Because I haven't, since I've been back, in 2009, I did try and go out. There was a reunion. I did try and go out, but I thought in renting the car to go out there, I would have a problem with my driver's license because it's from Belgium. It never expires, so I keep that. But no, it was because I didn't have a credit card. I only had a debit card. And so I went and I had the car reserved early in the morning. I went over there and I couldn't rent it. So I'm like, well, I mean, and if anybody from Foxcroft was interested or concerned about any of these issues, I'm all over Facebook. I mean, I shouldn't have to go out to Foxcroft for all of these reunions when I'm struggling to survive in Washington and just keep a roof over my head and keep myself off the street. I mean, all the little girls of Foxcroft live in La La Land. And I have to say, well, it's really all pretty much covered in my letters to the head of school and the trustees. I mean, all I can do is say what I see. See something, say something. I mean, I'm not. Oh, I guess this brings up another comment I had in here, because one of the things that I keep on saying it to everybody in my sting operations, because I guess I heard myself saying that. Yeah, they're sting operations, but it's not out of bad faith. I'm like, look, I come in there like, here's my FBI badge. I am, I am here from the FBI. Here's my badge, or, whatever. The police, here's my badge. Now, do you still want to buy this packet of drugs or whatever it is from me? I remind you, I'm with the authorities. Now, you still want to buy it? Okay. Oh. I mean, yeah, I'm setting people up, but I do not stab people in the back. If I come after you, I do it frontal. So but see, this is a good example of particularly, I mean, this, Tanya Truesdale. Well, it's Tanya Butler Truesdale and Andrea Reed, particularly. These are DBEs. Totally. One's in academia, and the other, I think, I forget, I think there's somebody also in Veterans Administration. It might be Andrea, it might be another, there's several, but these two, one was in the class below me and one was in the class above me. The other ones I really don't know. So, but, as I say, this is one of the advantage of, growing up with all of these people, because you've known them, for a long, even if not continually, you knew them as children or adolescents or whatever. So there we go for Foxcroft. I mean, I owe a lot to Foxcroft as I do to Cobham. But particularly Foxcroft, it's been at the lead of all of this. And I mean, it's ridiculous. They follow their dropout, Cornelia Guest. So we get to the next one. Player number 2. Okay, let's do IMF ICD, International Monetary Fund, which is the Institute for Capacity Development. Now, I worked there from 2011 to 2015 as a floater secretary. Now, excuse me, I was continually passed over for jobs. But I mean, I didn't care. I wasn't there to get into the grappling up the ladder of success at the IMF. I was interested because first, I couldn't find anything else, that was above minimum wage. And it gave me access to all sorts of different platforms, these academic platforms that cost you a lot of money if you have to become a member. I mean, like, okay, maybe, I mean, for these guys, it's nothing, but all of the economists have access to all of these things. So with my email account, I could access all of that stuff. Plus, 80% of my time I sat around. I mean, seat warming, no, because I was like, okay, well, I'm going to work for the people. I mean, I mean, part of the time I was working on the global expats, good portion of the time, maybe 2 years, but this also gets into ICD and what they're doing in the SDGs and all of the research that I was doing because I was looking for funding through the capital venturists in the United States, Spain. I mean, mainly United States, because when I went through the United States, I couldn't get anywhere. I'm like, okay, I'll go to Spain, which is much, much, much smaller. I did, actually get to communicate with a few people, which was more than I got in the United States. But it was always the bottom line of great project. But the money, like, I can get the money if I can get a partner. It's this catch, 22 situation, because I'm not a techie guru or I'm not a serial entrepreneur. It's just, there's a new aristocracy, but it's still a closed group. So, I was not like so many others. I mean, they did, thank God, disenable your ability to watch Netflix films for the people working there, because although you could still watch, YouTube movies, but there's so much mismanagement and lack of, again, it goes into the administrative function and office management and HR, and that's all within the same arena. So I was like, I'm not here to grapple up the ladder of success of this organization. I mean, well, when I worked at the IMF Family Association, I would stay there until late. I was the only one in there, and I was kind of the boss, and so I said, okay, I'll stay here and just keep the office open, and anybody can come in. But after 5, I work on my own stuff. So I mean, it was a win-win situation. I mean, it was different when I was in the IMF and in the offices. So but I was always the first in because I couldn't stay till 9 o'clock, and also by this time I had heat, which I hadn't in the first place, and a bigger laptop so I could work at home. So I just go home and then work from there. But I would come in. I'm an early riser, and one of the guys, when I left, he said, "My God, I'm always the first in the office, but you're the only one I've ever seen who gets in before me." And I did. I get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I usually be there from 7:15. But so yeah, for me, of course, I'm going to stay there. It's giving me an income and giving me lots of free time to do all of this research that they should be doing, and not being bothered, because the women in there, you had, I would say, well, let's put it into 2 categories because you could subdivide, but 2 categories. You had the old guard who had been there for 20, 30 years and were typists and so challenged by and bimbos, so challenged by all of this technology coming in, they couldn't keep up. And I mean, they would get hysterical, they were overwhelmed. But of course, nobody's getting rid of them. They've been there for so long. My thing is, what did you do hiring these people in the first place? You're supposed to be the top of the top. This is the bottom of the bottom. Oh God, Elizabeth Elliot. Let's see whose names we have on there. But so, the whole place was, how shall I say, an ideological case study on what not to do and how not to run an office in terms of administrative work, in terms of office management. I mean, the place was a dire shit show. And it was bad under the first office manager who was there, who was Kate Phillips, who was the one who kind of gave a name to, oh, I just ignore them until they go away game. And I was like, oh, that's what it's called. We used to call it around the world, but okay, now that's what we call it. So, the place is a mess. But so I'm continually also passed over for jobs. Now, the worst, I mean, I could give some examples, but the worst was I had been in the front office and I had been doing administrative work, what they call budget. The thing is, these girls, we don't want to do it, so let's give it to Quenby. Let's give it to Quenby because she never complains. Because I'm like, okay, I'm interested. I'm here to learn, to figure out, what you guys are doing. Sure, give it to me. And so I ended up doing what they call half HR, half budget. And I mean, this is like administrative work, like easy breezy 101. So then they bring in this young kid to do the job as contractual, because I think that they were like, oh, well, actually, she's doing enough work to actually make it into a job. So they bring in this young kid and put him in as contractual for that position, and they send me on another temp job elsewhere before they oust me. And I said to the office manager, I said, excuse me, because I've been there for 4 years and been passed over for a lot of jobs. I didn't care about the job, but I was like, excuse me, this is like slap in the face. I mean, I had to do this with my eyes closed. I've been doing the job, and now you're going to offer it to some young kid? And I said, excuse me, why did you not offer me this job first? And she said, oh, no, you're not qualified for the budget part. I said, Adrian, I used to be a trader in the financial markets back in the 80s. What are you talking about? I saw the financial collapse of 2008 coming a year before it came. And you guys did. I was like, where are you pulling that bullshit out of? Okay, she's the office manager now, so I'm not, those are not the words that I used. And then she said, oh, well, no, it's the HR stuff you're not qualified for. I'm trying to start a new civil rights movement for workers' rights in the United States. And I've been doing it for several years, and everybody in the office knows about it. Yet I don't have the experience to do an entry-level administrative assistant position because I have no experience in HR. I manage I mean, it's just another example of how these feminists and extremists pull anything and everything that they want out of a hat that makes no sense whatsoever to justify what they're doing. And they get away with it because nobody wants to confront them. I mean, when so Kate Phillips, I got a promotion. She's got her HR career set out for her. Well, I think there was a coup. There was some fighting, I think, between Gina Paoni after that and Kate Phillips. And Kate Phillips lost out because she got ousted. Like, see, Kate, you picked the wrong team. So, and I think Kate Phillips never wanted me kind of promoted anywhere because she was afraid that I would take the limelight away from her, and she had her trajectory mapped out. So when Adrian Thapa is supposed to come in as office manager, I mean, all of the assistants, the old guard, because the new ones coming in are, don't really know what's going on and also really don't want to say anything. But the old guard ones, oh my freaking God. If things were bad before, this is going to be a Titanic. And effectively, I mean, you talk about it's incredible how in the organizations, let's see how many incompetent idiots we can promote and put in charge. Adrian Thapa is the perfect example. I mean, that was also why I'm like, oh, you little lady. Well, okay, I'm going to try, because this is 150 pages. The workplace bullying, if you want a whole lowdown, it's you can find it on War on Domestic Terrorism and Taking Back America for the People. So I'll try and make that a little short. But she was determined to get rid of me. So, God, I mean, it just, it's like, this is ridiculous. But yeah, okay. So there was some work being done at the entrance. We were in 1919 Penn because the IMF was under, reforms. So ICD was across the street in 1919 Penn. So we're in an office building, not in the IMF. So they were fixing the front door, so it was closed off. But on the back entrance, which is the closest one to Farragut North, because I was living at Greenville at that time, so I was coming in on the metro. So I come in the back door, that's the closest one. So they're doing work, and right next to the entrance is a coffee shop, and through the coffee shop you can get into the building. So I go into the coffee shop. I've always got my music on. I go in, I'm like, hi, how you doing? And I was like, oh gosh, I'm gonna have a lot of traffic, but this will be good for sales. And second day, go in, looking at me, I'm like, well, whatever your problem is, I don't know what your problem is. So I go through. Third day, I'm going through, and the manager, he puts himself in front of me and won't let me go through to the entrance to the building. And I take off the music and I said, excuse me, is there a problem? He said, you can't come through here. I said, what's the problem? You can't come through here. Like you have to be a customer to come into our premises. Now, this gets me into, I got a real problem in DC, and this is probably, throughout the United States, that in my day, when we worked in restaurants in the 80s, everybody could use the bathrooms, the rest of the toilets. You could not prevent a homeless person. You could not prevent anybody from coming in. I mean, I know, because I even had a manager say, I don't know, they got to come in, because if not, the next day, we're going to have a lawsuit from the civil rights people. I think everybody knows the policies today. So this is something that I'm really, and in Kalari, I was like, yeah, I don't care if you're a client or not, you're more than welcome to use the bathroom. Now, I have had to ask some homeless people who were camping out back there that it wasn't a homeless shelter. They could use the restroom. I mean, it wasn't exactly to take a bath, but okay. But you can't hang out in the hallway back there. I mean, I think that's legitimate. However, I always have been, extremely angry. No, these are public places, and everybody should be able to. I mean, this was a huge thing back in the 80s. These are public establishments, and you could not prevent people from coming in to use your facilities just because they're not consuming. I mean, in Europe, they do that all the time. Oh, I had this discussion. So I'm like, you gotta be kidding. So I go out. Yeah, start a fight. So I go around, I go in the front entrance, I get, to my office, of course, 7 o'clock in the morning. So I wait until somebody's going to be in the management office. And I call them up first thing, and I explained to them what happened. And I said, I'm sorry, but this is totally inappropriate. They shouldn't be preventing the public from coming through. Also, the guys are idiots. I told them from the beginning, I tried to be nice, and I was like, oh, but wow, you're going to have a lot of traffic, but you need money. If I had been the manager, are you kidding? I would have been encouraging people to come through. I would have put little samples out of your muffins or whatever, and give them out for free. You get them to stop. Yes, you're going to get out of every 10 who passes by, only one is going to stop and get a coffee but it's goodwill. And how much did those 10 little pieces of muffin cost you? You slice it up. I mean, I was just, at one moment it's sell, but only if they got money. I mean, the whole thing was ridiculous from beginning to end. But for me, I had told the building management this was inappropriate, what had happened. I had lodged my little complaint, and for me it was done. So then Adrian Thapa, the office manager, she calls me into the office. And she said, did you call office management, the building management about this? I said, of course I did. You identified yourself as an employee of this office? I said, of course I did. I said, wait a second. I'm coming in at 7 o'clock in the morning. It's like, say why I'm coming in, on what basis I'm coming in, and also why would there be a problem of me identifying myself as an IMF employee? I mean, what's this all about? I mean, she just went on and on and on and on, like basically, you have to admit that you did something wrong. You have to admit that you did something wrong. Just admit you did something wrong. I mean, that was the gist of the conversation. I was like, whoa, lady, I knew you were crazy, but I didn't know you were this crazy. I mean, you have to understand, all of these people know that I should be getting support from the international community, the human rights community, the IMF, the World Bank, the UN, instead of bullied and harassed and denigrated and spit upon. Not just in my work, but in my personal relationships with any of them, whether it be at the IMF, or when I was at Kalari, or in my demonstrations. They are so arrogant. I really have, you know what? You guys, you made your bed, you're gonna lie in it. That's your attitude towards me. So anyway, she was just out of freaking control because Madame had become office manager. I mean, you talk about your prima donna queens, and everybody's, they're still, I mean, at least last I heard, and I understand she's still there. I mean, it's just, oh, but no, because the incompetence goes all the way up to the top. So it's convenient to have totally incompetent people in there because everybody's like, well, I'm just happy, you know, I just want to cash my paycheck, cash in, and, you know, get everything and anything that I can. So after that, I was, you know, 2 months. She wasn't able to oust me right away. But after that, you know, she was gonna get rid of me. But she was already gonna get rid of me. I knew that, you know, when she got in as office manager. It was just a matter of time. And this was just, you know, one of her excuses. So I'll try and wrap up because there's a lot to cover with this department. So I went to what's called strategy and evaluation after that. Now, these people are supposed to examine the effectiveness of the department. Okay, well, when you have a jackass who's got a head so far up his frickin' you know what, how are they going to examine the effectiveness of a department? Robert Powell. Now he's like this UN liaison with the IMF. Okay, well, I won't go into all with Robert Powell, but all I'll say about Robert Powell was, first off, Robert Powell, when I doodle, it's not because I'm a bimbo. It's not because I'm not listening. I'm actually just listening very, very, very attentively. And you can all ask Marco Espinosa what I think about meetings. So ask yourself why I was so interested in attending every single meeting and pre-meeting of the CCBs, which is, what is that? I'll have to look that up. It is called CCB. Everything's got an acronym. The CCBs. It was their big presentation to management about the department. I was like, I can't even believe that. Well, first, this actually comes a little bit later when I do the spring meetings in 2016. But $330 million a year of taxpayers' money to produce yet another university that's going to teach economists how to manipulate markets so that the big wigs and the fat cats can laugh all the way to the bank. You know, you guys are just in bed with everybody else and wasting $330 million a year of taxpayers' money in the process. But not only that, doing great oh my goodness, doing great detriment in the process. So oh gosh, I'm not getting through this very fast. So here, I mean, workplace bullying in the IMF, that's my case against them under labor rights violations. And it's a pack talk. It's a pack talk. However, as I was getting into, I also have a problem with them in terms of, you know, the what they're teaching, because what they're teaching is not capitalism. It's the same interventionism that the Fed is doing, the Fed and the central banks and the government agencies that are supposed to be addressing the problem. They just keep on producing more and more and handing it over. And Bitcoin, so I won't go there because I would be there. Okay, that's just, let's just pour more money in to keep the bubble up. So when that thing collapses, it's going to collapse all over the place. So ICD, I'm all over the map, but you see, there's the feminists, there's the secretaries, the office manager, and then there's the what they call the HR team, the little management. Gina Paoni, Fanal Fouad was there before her. Oh, there's Charlene Gust, I see here, Anna Day, Elizabeth Elliott, Adrian Thapa, I already said, Kate Phillips, Jocelyn von der Hagen, Carla Culati, but then also this is IMFHR is responsible, Kalpana Kochar. So that's really in terms of like my beef and the labor rights violations with these women. But see, my point with this story is these people are out of control, absolutely out of control. They think they can do anything they want, and they do. I mean, they're pests, these little ladies. I mean, I got my issues with the people at the economists, and well, maybe that's where people aren't understanding to separate those two things. There's my issues with the economists, the policies and practices from that perspective, but then there's the labor rights violations and the mismanagement, and both are equally important, I would say, because one without the other, bullshit. So let's go on. Okay, well, this will be short. Okay, so this is in 2007 when all of the problems exploded. I'm going through the courts and nobody will help me. I go to my consulate, but amongst the people that I asked for assistance, just to contact the consulate to do its job, was, oh gosh, I'm sorry, I'm not sleeping well, but so was I've been sleeping well for over 20 years, but was Jennifer Shaw. She's the daughter of former Congressman Clay Shaw from Florida, Republican. They're from Fort Lauderdale. And he was the author of the Missing Child's Act. I think that was 85. And then there was a funding of it 2007, around 2008, around that time, $40 million. So, Jen, can you help me? I haven't heard from Jen. I tried to contact her a couple of times after I got back, but of course I called her house. She won't even pick up the phone. Spoke with her daughter. I mean, like everybody. I mean, I really don't know what they think, because they just, they've canceled me. I'm an inconvenience, nobody wants to deal with any unpleasantness. And so they just, sweep it under the carpet, because of course there's no consequences for anybody, and they can, keep on living the good life with nobody raining on their parade. So, that started the Missing Child Act. Well, the Missing Child Act gave rise to the Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Well, as all of the victims and everybody on this cesspool will tell you, the Center for Missing and Exploited Children is more effective in exploiting and trafficking children than protecting them. We all know this. Oh, but Jen, she's good. She's good. So why bother? She was on Facebook for a while, but she's no longer there. I don't know why. But so we have the Center for Missing and Exploited Children in the United States. We get started the International Center for Missing and Exploited Children, which is started by the guy who was 25, 30 years director of the Center for Missing and Exploited Children. So he starts that with the assistance of Lady Catherine Meyer. Okay, Lady Catherine Meyer, her case was in Germany. She's British. So but see, this is another case where I have to ask myself, because her children were adolescents and they went back to Germany for a vacation, summer vacation, and they stayed. So my question is, Lady Catherine Meyer, did they stay because they were happier with their father? What's happened there? Yeah, you lost custody because they stayed. But this is again where evidence, etc., is important. Proper custody. Maybe your kids stayed because you're a control freak, social climbing bitch who doesn't care about them. Because I don't understand how, the Center for Missing and Exploited Children, we know, are exploiting and trafficking children. So you help the head of that start an international center for missing and exploited children. Well, I'll leave the Hague Convention on International Child Abduction apart there, but that gets connected. Lady, you're just cashing in like everybody else. And I mean, my favorite is an article because she snagged herself an ambassador, a British ambassador to Washington. I mean, he was coming to it. I think it was just before he came to Washington. And even in an article, it says, with her skinny legs. Just another example. But it's going to bite her in the ass, because if she's never heard of me, if she has no idea of all of the information that I have posted out there, not my fault, not my problem. I mean, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. I mean, I've been after all of these people and organizations like this. Let's get together and talk. I got a meeting to go to. Oh, I loved it. There was I've seen several times with the Biden administration and press conferences. Everybody, he's got a meeting to go to. He's got an important meeting to go to. He's got to get out of here. People are meeting themselves to death. Okay, so, and gosh. Okay, I think I'm just going to do one card and I'll do these other three. I'll keep them for tomorrow because they're interesting. and I'll try and get on earlier. I just see administrative work. It's no, it's not rocket science. It just takes time. Because you should be able to see. At least I've got the links to the videos on taking back America for the people. I mean, it's not applicable, but what I'm saying is I'm putting another post there, and you just got it, and then I'm working on the graphics. So I'm sorry, but I'll do those tomorrow. So, but I will finish this up. So let's give me a card. Oh, and then we're gonna do I do love this thing with the Alice in Wonderland. But see how there's so many people. There's so many people. Oh, I did. Oh, I wanted to show this. I'm almost finished with this, and I actually got it scanned. But this, so I'll post this up. This is, for also on the activism website. I can put that up in images. But to show the different, well, this is something that I was working on. But I love it because it is the feminist, and it's well, these are Black Panthers, but it doesn't matter. It's a tiger or a cougar or whatever. Well, this is like I mean, that's the Alice in Wonderland thing. But you can see how. So I'll get that posted. But what I'm trying to do is show there's all of these different groups, but it's all different, interconnected. And in this, I do use my own case to make the example. Because I mean, you try and explain all of this with, oh, here we go. Okay. I'm going to take a founding father. Let's see. Thomas Hayward Jr. I'm not familiar. As a South Carolina lawyer, Hayward was a signer of both the U.S. Declaration of Independence and the Articles of Confederation. Hayward returned to South Carolina in 1778 to serve as a judge. Hayward was taken prisoner by the British during the siege of Charleston. He continued to serve as a judge after the war. I mean, I'm not really familiar with him, but let's just talk about the South. From the South. Civil War, South, North. One of the things that I keep on, I'll keep it short with this, that I keep on saying to people is the Civil War was not fought over a question of slavery. Everybody pulls that out to justify their wars. They're always about economic interests. And then even World War II and World War I, I mean, the Inquisition, the Catholic Church used that card many times. So the real reason for any war is always going to be based on economic interests, but what really propels them to take up arms. And this was just a battle between industrial domination or supremacy between by the industrial North or the agrarian South. The industrial North won, and they're making the agrarian South, but also all of the agrarian people pay. We have won. We're going to become a totally industrialized society, and for urban living, and the rest of the country be damned. And that's why we're going to head to another another civil war. Okay, so let's do my favorite. We'll keep these for tomorrow. Early. Oh gosh, are you doing this? Okay, let's take these out. They came out. Okay, for Tanya Butler Truesbill, Foxcroft, Black Lives Matter, Andrea Reed, Janine Prim, we've got all Mimsy were the Borogoves and the Moanraths outgrade. Oh, here it is. I'll reread this because I really loved this. Because it made more sense this one. This is from Alice. It seems pretty, she said when she had finished it, but it's rather hard to understand. You see, she didn't like to confess, even to herself, that she couldn't make it out at all. Somehow it seems to fill my head with ideas, only I don't know exactly what they are. However, somebody killed somebody. That's clear at any rate. So Black Lives Matter for you guys. Now, for IMF, ICD, HR, their labor rights issues, let's say. And hast thou slain the Jabberwock? Come to my arms, my beamish boy. Well, I don't know, it's HR saying, come on, you little boys, be with me. The evil, the wicked witch of the West, is it? Okay, so for Center for Missing and Exploited Children and International Center for Missing and Exploited Children, curtsy while you're thinking what to say. It saves time. Now, one of the problems in these organizations is nobody's doing their homework. Nobody. And for me, we called him Tortoise because he taught us. Now, I don't know how many times I use the tortoise and the hare analogy to tell my adversaries, I know, I'm stupid, I'm slow. I'm just plodding along. You guys are the rabbits, the hares, and everybody's noticing you, and you're at the front of the line and you're running and you're all over the place. And I'm just plugging along and plugging along, plugging along. We called him Tortoise because he taught us. Well, I hope so. I hope I teach somebody something. It's about time. Okay, I'm sorry. I really will try and I just believe it or not, the day gets away from me. I usually get up around 8 o'clock in the morning. Okay, so have a nice evening, and I will get on later, earlier tomorrow. Bye-bye.